Okay, we're live, Sarah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, with all our video podcasts, I always start with an introduction and a trigger warning, which I read from the screen. So, I apologise, I'm looking away for a second. But today we are joined by lovely Sarah from the Kit Tarka Foundation. Sarah founded the Kit Tarka Foundation with her partner James in January 2018 after her 13-day-old son Kit died from neonatal herpes. I'm so sorry, Sarah. So sorry. After discovering that Kit had died from neonatal herpes, which is the cold sore virus in babies, Sarah set out to learn as much as she could about this devastating disease. She was astonished by the lack of awareness amongst the general public and, most disturbingly, by the huge gaps in knowledge and symptoms and best practice in the UK medical profession. That must have been a huge thing for you to come across, my goodness. It soon became clear that Kit's death had been preventable and that the lack of knowledge around the transmission, recognition and treatment of the virus had led to his tragic and untimely death. Wow, Sarah, my goodness, that's a huge uh, kind of amount of research to come across at such a difficult time for you. My goodness. Here at Oscar Bush Foundation, we understand how devastating losing a baby can be, and we extend our sincerest understanding and support to anyone within this journey too. We know that the grieving process is different for everyone, and each person may need a different type of support. One of the ways that we've been asked to extend our support is in the form of informal chats like we'll be having today with parents and professionals that are involved in the care of us and our babies during our journey. I'll do the other trigger warning at the end, Sarah, but I really just want to talk to you today about the amazing work that you and your team and your partner are doing. So could you tell us a little bit more about your journey, your story and your charity, please?
Yeah, so you've done a great introduction there. That sums us up in a nutshell. That it was just, going through Kit's birth and subsequent death when he was just 13 days old, he got kind of sicker and sicker. He was always in hospital, discharged for a day, but he was still very poorly, back to hospital. And yeah, he very sadly died when he was 13 days old. But the whole time he was in hospital, the herpes virus, which turned out to be what caused his death, was never tested for or treated for. So they were just giving Kit antibiotics to treat a bacteria. Because most babies in that position who are that poorly would have a bacterial infection. So it's going to do nothing at all for a virus. So and it was just after he died. We were both in utter shock and going through the grief and trauma, but we were just desperate to find out what had happened. Like how Kit was born perfectly healthy. He got 10 out of 10 in his ACPA score. He was full term. So how could that baby be dead 13 days later? And me being me, I was just desperate to find out what happened. Started doing lots of research, and was just absolutely shocked at how little information was out there. The last full UK surveillance study that was published was 25 years ago. And so the numbers that doctors were giving us were based on data that was 25 years out of date. And that was saying it's very rare, we wouldn't have spotted it because it's so rare. But the more I dug into it, the more I found that actually it's on the rise. There was a later bit of research that I found from Nottingham, which showed that neonatal herpes is possibly affecting up to one baby every week in the UK, or one baby every week in the UK is dying from it. And this was this research based in Nottingham, and if you extrapolated that over the whole of the UK, and so it was clear that there just wasn't the data out there, and as a result, there is no neonatal herpes guideline in most hospitals. So that the doctors that are meeting sick babies are not necessarily considering herpes or viral infections. They're just assuming they're the much more common bacterial infections. And because of the lack of research, one of the first things is we need to fund this research. We need to know how many babies are dying in the UK now, Um, so I did approach some other charities to say, like, if we raised a lot of money, would you be able to facilitate this research?
Mm-hmm.
And because every charity has their own tight remit, no other charity was able to help. And my background is actually in charity finance, so I was a head of finance at an arts charity, so I knew how to set up a charity.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally like a middle of the night thing. Just woke up, right, picked up a foundation. We need to raise funds for this research, and we need to know how many babies are dying from this forty virus, and we need to start preventing it. Because by that stage, I knew information, I had information in my head that could save other babies,
Yes.
and it was almost like I felt like a kind of duty that I couldn't just sit on that information. But every time I heard of another baby dying from it, I think this is actually good. And yeah, so that's how we started the charity. And I was actually on maternity leave with Fix the Together Red when I
Mm-hmm.
started it, like you were saying earlier.
Mm.
And it started on a voluntary basis. But then we were fortunate enough for it to become my paid job and for me to quit other work from January in 2020. And yeah, we've just gone from strength to strength since then, really.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. The work that you do is absolutely incredible, and I think it's really really important to have this chat, especially this week, whilst there is a huge spotlight, kind of focusing with it being Baby Loss Awareness Week, and looking at the incredible work that is being done. Because I'm sure lots of your viewers would never have ever heard of our charity, and maybe lots of other people viewing may not have heard. And I'm grateful that they haven't heard on one degree, because it means they've not needed to know about our charities. And whilst it's great that people have that awareness, sometimes you think, gosh, if you know about our charity, that's because you've been touched by the loss of a baby. And but to know about the amazing work that's being done behind to save babies' lives before they get to the point of even needing maybe a charity like Oscar's Wish is just so vital. And hopefully through our platforms today we can raise that awareness and let more people know about neonatal herpes, because until I started following your page, it wasn't something I was aware of, and it is something that's so important. Why is there not this information out there, do you think?
Well, I think fundamentally it comes down to money.
Yes.
Just there's not the money out there to fund the research that's needed. And you could blame underfunding in the NHS, so there's not time. Doctors, midwives, nurses are so pressured at the moment. They don't necessarily have time to go off and go to training sessions. And if no one's got the money to facilitate those training sessions in the first place, you end up in a situation. I'm sure it's not just, well, I know it's not just neonatal herpes, because as I go through this journey, I mean, the remit of our charity is to prevent newborn baby death.
Yes.
We are focusing on herpes because we know there's this huge gap.
Yeah.
But there's lots of other things as well that are going on and that just aren't being recognised or treated for. And very sadly, as a result, babies are dying. And
So,
I just I want to say thank you to you as well, because we kept our cards crossed in the immediate aftermath of Kit dying, didn't we?
they did.
And you're a great support to us, and the counselling that you funded was a massive help as well. So you do an amazing thing. I guess we have very different remits, don't we? We're trying to make people not need your amazing service, but of course there's always going to be deaths which are not preventable. Um, what the work you do is just incredible in supporting those people in that
That's really
journey.
kind. Thank you. And like yourself, I'm doing this alongside my amazing volunteers and trustees, because in memory, like you, in memory of your son, in memory of my son, and our trustees, in memory of their children too. And earlier you said something that really resonated about, you kind of felt like it was your duty, and I had that same feeling of, sat on level 13 after he was born in my arms, looking at him thinking, I have to do something about this. And it just, like you woke up in the middle of the night, it just came to me, and I was like, something has to change. This isn't right. This situation isn't right. And I just think it is great that somehow our babies, our children, have given us this strength to follow through with that, and be where we are today because of our love for them. Um, it's a minefield. There's lots to do, isn't there? As we were saying before we came live, running a charity isn't something that just happens. It takes a lot of hard work and determination and fundraising and awareness raising. But it is an honour to be able to do this, and for you guys to be able to try and prevent the newborn baby deaths, and for us to then be able to support families that sadly were in a situation where they weren't unfortunately able to be prevented. So, now I feel really emotional now.
Yeah.
And so, what we wanted to really do today was to obviously raise huge amounts of awareness about the amazing work that you guys are doing, and also talk about how you and your partner James looked after yourself, because the theme of Baby Loss Awareness Week this week is about well-being, and we all know too well that looking after ourselves, well-being, all those lovely things we're supposed to do when we're in our absolute deepest depths of despair and trauma, aren't always possible. And we were chatting by email before we organised today about some of the context that we could talk about well-being in, and one of them was, how do you look after yourself after the loss of your baby? Like, how do you even go about doing that? How
Yeah,
was that?
I think when you first got in touch, I was like, I don't know if I'm that good at it. But actually, on having a chat with James, my husband, we actually found that we did have lots of ways that helped us cope, both in those early days and also now. I think there is a big difference of what you need when it's just happened, like in the weeks and months following. Um, and what you need is really, really hard to be motivated to do. Um, so we did rely on others, and we had, like, I wish friends had a guide of what to do and what not to do. And I know organisations like yourself can be amazing. But what really helped us in the immediate aftermath was other people, like maybe providing us with meals. So one of my friends was literally just put some soup on our doorstep and text like, "Oh, I've made some extra soup." Well, I think she put it in the words like, "I made too much," and it's like,
Oh,
I know you didn't make too much, but
yeah.
that kind of thing. My mum was amazing, like delivering hot meals and stuff. And because actually, that's what you would do if that person had a baby at
Yeah.
home. You
Yeah.
would help them out with food, and like if there are other siblings, you'd look after those siblings.
Mm.
But it did feel a bit like really, we did have odd things like that, and that helped. But um, it was hard. You do feel a bit abandoned in a way, because other people, I'm sure you've experienced yourself, are not necessarily comfortable talking about your baby, or they don't know what to say, so they choose to say nothing. And and that does really negatively affect your well-being. And and that, yeah, so you have the opposite side where people do rally around. Like even leaving the house, I really struggled with leaving the house in those first few weeks. Like I felt like I couldn't even go to the corner shop. That felt quite scary. But one of my friends who lived round the corner was like, "I'm cooking you and James dinner," and it's 2 streets away. That's as far as you need to get.
Yeah.
And and we went and we had a nice time, and there were moments of laughter and happiness, and of course there were tears and at times we were sobbing. But that first step, someone guiding us through that, really helped.
Yeah. So it is so important to have that support network around you, however big or small that may be. And it's definitely something that a lot of people contact the charity about in the early days, is that whilst they know that's what they need, they find it really hard to ask friends and family to be there for them, and then on the side of that, friends and family find it difficult to know then what to say. How do they initiate that conversation? Is it okay for them to acknowledge the baby, use the baby's name, ask you how you are, or is that going to upset you? And our advice is always to take the lead from the parents, because they are the best guide as to what they need, because what everyone needs is different. But also not being afraid to ask, say to them, is it, do you want to talk about your baby? I want you to know that I'm here if you want to talk about your experience. I know it will be upsetting and we'll both be sad, but nothing can probably make you more sad than you feel already. And
No.
actually acknowledging, and I think that's where the awareness needs to come from, is that whilst there are definitely some people that would prefer not to speak, and just kind of go about life in the way that's most comfortable for them, for many others, they do want to speak and they do feel silence. And dropping the soup, I know, so sweet. That's exactly what my mum put. She said she'd made extra, and
Yeah.
she just made some sandwiches. And I was like, you haven't made extra. You've made them specially, and you've driven over here specially. But you're saying that because I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
And it makes me smile now, but at the time it was so heartfelt. And those little things are so big to us at the time, aren't they? They're so important, because feeding yourself can be a bit of an issue when
Yeah.
you're crying all the time, you're upset, you're angry, all these emotions. The last thing you want to do is go and make some soup, or go and make a sandwich, or go to the shop to even get some more milk for a cup of tea. So it is so special when people do reach out and do those things.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about kind of well-being as a whole, obviously it's all the other things as well for us about making sure we meet our own needs with regards to sleep, hygiene, and keeping clean, and just feeling like we can function on a daily basis. And when that's not possible, it's really, really important that we are able to reach out to people to ask for help and support. Where did you find you had support outside your friends and families from in the kind of early days?
Well, you guys provided some counselling sessions in the early days. But apart from that, to be honest, we felt really abandoned from the system. Kit was rushed to a hospital in London, and that's where he died. And I think it was a bit because of that the bereavement midwife we were no longer under midwifery care, because actually
Right.
Kit was transferred to a children's hospital. We weren't under the care of that hospital. We were officially under the care of the Evelina, and they offered us counselling, but there was no way we were going to go back to London for a counselling session, back to the hospital where Kit was. And we were given, there's the name of another charity, and were not really, they just didn't listen to us at all, like, as in we didn't hear back from them from
Right.
emails and phone calls. So it was, we were very much relying on our phone support network,
Yes.
which was really difficult.
Yes. And when you're feeling isolated already, to then not feel you have um, that support network from kind of the hospital side as well, which I can understand when you are transferred from. I hear that from a lot of families when they are transferred on, they no longer are, not, I don't want to say the responsibility, but they're not under that care of the original hospital or what have you, and that can make things quite tricky. But surely there must be some kind of joined up thinking here where um, we haven't chosen for this to happen to us or our babies, and then there has to be someone that's accountable for um, checking in with us, a bit of aftercare, a bit of kind of even just a text to say, how are you doing, is there anything you need, is it can I signpost you to anywhere, because that's when it does become the responsibility of local charities to almost provide that aftercare, to say we're here if you need us. But also, it takes strength from parents to reach out for that support. And if
Yeah.
you're not in a position where, because so much goes on, doesn't it, after? There's so much going on that sometimes that well-being and thinking about what you need and your partner needs and your family needs does tend to get put on the back burner. You know, you might need someone to talk to, you might want an online support group, you might want to go to some group therapy, but there's so much else going on that can get kind of pushed to one side. And without the reminders from those that are around us and caring for us to say, you might not want it now, but there is this charity or this organisation or this place that you can go to that are here when you're ready. It's so important. And that I guess with you guys, well, that's where we rely on our social media, because when people share the posts, you don't know who it's going to reach, and hope they won't need you one day, but to know that the information's out there should they need it. And then maybe the wider networks can then say, I don't know much about this organisation or this charity or this group, but I saw it once on Facebook or Instagram, and I really think it might be worth having a look at. And that's where we can bridge this gap. You know, to say we are all here and we are ready and we are waiting when you're ready and you need us. So
I think that's important when you're ready, because
yes,
I don't think we were ready for counselling when we first started it, but later down the line I had some through another organisation, and that really helped because I was ready.
yes,
And of course, like your rapport with the counsellor and stuff is just so important, and you just click. So I would definitely urge anyone watching this who has been through that loss, like it doesn't matter if it's recent or if it's a long time ago, if you haven't had that support at all, then it is a really, really powerful thing.
yes,
It definitely helps.
definitely. I spoke yesterday to one of our counsellors, whose link I'll share in the coming days. But one of the key things we were trying to get across is exactly what you've just said. Then is that it doesn't matter where you're at in your journey. If you feel speaking to someone will help. It doesn't matter if you're 25 years down the line or 25 weeks down the line, or even preparing yourself for what may be coming. Then reaching out is so important, and securing that network around you so that you have got a safety net, someone that you can fall on if you need to. So I'm just thinking about the other questions that I was going to ask you. You've answered them all so amazingly that it's thrown me a little bit. So yes, sorry, lovely.
I was just going to say about setting up the charity, because it's definitely in the early days that really did help my well-being.
Yes.
And it gave me a focus, and it helped us feel really loved, because our friends could then start raising money, and our friends that maybe were too nervous to say something to us could donate to a page and write a message, and actually for some people that was easier than just sending us a message.
Yeah.
But we raised so much money through our friends and family that we were able to fund like the first research project within the first year of the charity.
Wow.
And that really turned things around in how we felt. Like it took away a lot of that feeling of abandonment, because it gave everyone else a focus as well. I think it helped them feel that they were doing something, and it definitely helped us. I think now it's harder to tell now as the journey goes on whether it's helping or not.
Yes.
Because I don't know how you feel, but you're immersed in the baby lost world every single day, and that's your job.
Yes.
And it's harder to know if that's helpful or not as time goes on. But definitely in those early days. So I think raising money for a charity, I know other bereaved parents we've spoken to as well, does really help them. But even like setting yourself a challenge, so running your 5K or your 10K or your marathon and raising funds for charity, that's going to help. Doing exercise is so important and helpful for your well-being, but so difficult to be self-motivated. But if you have a goal of raising money for a charity that you feel passionately about, then you go out and you do your exercise, and you're also raising money, and it helps your friends and family, give you something to focus on. And that, I'm not saying that because I want you to raise money for Oscar's Whistle Hit Bartlett. I'm the same person that really
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely something that comes across when families feel that they can give back, or people feel they can give back, and acknowledge their friend's loss through doing a fundraiser, a cake sale, a sponsored silence. There's so many different variations of things that people do and like to do. You know, climbing Ben Nevis and all of those wonderful things, which is the biggest gesture to a lost parent, isn't it? It's such a, I don't know, there's just such a huge amount of gratitude for the act of kindness that they are taking part in. And the awareness raising and fundraising that comes with it is just the added bonus, because then it obviously helps fund campaigns and research projects. And um, it is just such a huge gesture of kindness and care. Um, from our side of things. So with your campaigns that you've got coming up, is there anything that you wanted to kind of raise awareness of today while we're chatting? Or
Yes.
is it kind of top secret at the moment, kind of still planning?
Can give a sneak preview. We've got a new campaign coming up around hygiene around newborn babies. So our focus, is on neonatal herpes, because that's the most obvious issue to us, where there's huge gaps. That there's many other viruses that can be spread through people unknowingly, like not washing their hands before holding a newborn baby, or kissing a baby that's not their own baby. So we've got a campaign that's called Think Hands and No Kisses. Thanks.
Mhm.
Um, and at the moment, NCT have got a survey out assessing like current hygiene practices around newborns, which they're helping us with. So yeah, that's hopefully launching in November. So keep an eye out. We'll be sharing it on social media. And we've also got posters that are already hospitals are taking to include like postnatal wards and baby units, which is great. And we just want to empower parents. Like COVID, as a result of COVID, we think other viruses like neonatal herpes have reduced, because people are much more conscious of hygiene around anybody, let alone newborns.
Mhm.
But we want to just empower parents to say, like, please, they walk, if you've got a newborn baby, you walk in your house, you wash your hands,
Yes.
And don't kiss them.
Yes.
And obviously, I don't want to speak too much about newborn babies when I know many of your audience are very sadly grieving their baby. So I won't say any more, but that's one of our prevention strategies that we're working on.
Amazing, absolutely brilliant. And we wish you all the best with the incredible work that you all continue to do, and hope that lots of awareness is raised and funds are raised to help you continue your research projects and your mission. But thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
It's been so lovely to chat to you, and I wish it was under different circumstances, having a nice hot chocolate with marshmallows in a cafe, because I don't know, we bumped into each other somewhere rather than this situation.
Yeah,
But this is the situation that we're in, and our boys have made us cross our pathways have crossed, and um, yeah, continue doing all the amazing things that you do. And thank you so much for your time today.
thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you for all the amazing work you guys do as well.
Bless you. That's really
Thank
kind. Are
you.
you happy for us to share all your links in the comments and the blurbs and everything? So if people want to know more about you, they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, of course.
Lovely. Thank you so much for all your help, Sarah, and have a
Okay.
really, really gentle day.
Thank you. You
Thank
too.
you. Take care.